Good morning students, welcome back to online classes of pulse and digital circuits. So in previous class we have seen about high-pass RC circuits. What high-pass RC circuits are actually the circuits which will be stopping or attenuating your low frequency components, and it only allows your high frequency component is called as your high-pass circuit, which is a combination of your capacitor and resistor. Okay, the resistor which the capacitor which is followed up by your resistor, right? In that one, after that we have seen how you are going to give different input signals to that one. So what are the input signals that we have given? First we have applied a sinusoidal input to the your high pass filter, high pass RC circuit. Then afterwards we have seen like a step voltage or the step input voltage that has been given as an input, which we have also seen the response of your high pass RC circuit when you are giving a step voltage. Okay, that will be giving you exponential output. Then also we have seen the pulse input, like how your pulse input will be how, and what is the duration of that particular time, and how we will be going to see mathematically, that also we have seen. And we have seen different conditions for your pulse response. Okay, the pulse is nothing but will be having a positive and negative responses over there. So if you are having the time constant is greater than t or less than t, what are the step responses, how you will be getting the peaks over there, but also we have seen, correct. Then lastly we have seen the square wave input as well as the ramp input. So square wave, it will be maintaining, a constant level, amplitude level, that is nothing but a voltage level for the positive peak, also for the negative peak. So we have also proven that for any periodic waveform, the average level will be of your steady state output voltage. Okay, for that we have seen the mathematical expressions also, and along with that one we have also seen how your waveforms will be there. The output voltage, if the time constant is very large, output voltage when the time constant is very less or equals to that one, and how your amplitude values will be changing and all. And last one we have seen about your ramp input, how your ramp input will be moving on, what are the responses for that one. Okay, how you will be getting the peaks and all, that we have all seen the different inputs which have been applied to your high pass RC circuit. Now in today's class we are going to see our next topic, that is your high pass RC circuit, which will be acting as differentiator. In the previous classes we have seen about the integrator. I hope you all remember what actually integrator was. Do anyone I hope remember, like people can't answer, but I hope you all remember what integrator was actually, right? So what integrator was, when the time constant is very large, okay, your time constant is very large in comparison with the time required for the input signal to make an appreciable change, then that particular circuit is used to call your integrator. Then the time constant was very large. Now see here, when the time constant of an high pass RC circuit is very small, okay, when compared to the time required for the input signal to make some appreciable changes in the circuit, then that particular circuit is called as your differentiator. Now what is the difference? What is the integrator? I'm comparing both and telling you so that you people can remember that one. See, if the time constant is very large, okay, in comparison with the time required, RC is greater than t, greater than or greater than of t, then the time then the input signal to make the input signal to have some appreciable changes, then that circuit is called as your integrator. When if your time constant RC bar is very much less than of t in comparison with the t, right, for the input signal to make some changes, then that circuit is called as your differentiator. So this name itself arises from the fact that under these circumstances the voltage drop across the resistor will be small in comparison with the voltage drop across the capacitor. I'll repeat it once again. The name itself, it is telling that there is a fact that these circumstances of the voltage drop across the resistor will be small when compared to the voltage drop across the capacitor. Hence we can also say that the total input voltage Vi of t appears across C, so that the current is determined completely by the capacitance. So the complete what we call current can be obtained by using your capacitance itself. So here it is also said that hence the current is determined entirely by the capacitance itself or the capacitor. Okay, I'll repeat it once again. When a time constant of the high pass RC circuit is very small, the capacitor charges very quickly, so almost all the input voltage Vi of 0. Okay, this is actually Vi of 0, also we can say a Vi of t also, which appears across the capacitor, and the voltage drop across the resistor will be negligible. Okay, what I have said, please do make it down a note. Okay, I'm repeating once again. Okay, this is here, you can directly write notes from here or take a screenshot. But what I have told the definition for your differentiator, please make a note. I am repeating it once again. If the time constant is very small in comparison with the time required for the input voltage to make an appreciable change, then the circuit is called as the differentiator. Okay, this is the definition. Now you make a note. The name itself tells us that from the fact that under these circumstances voltage drop across the resistor will be very small and in comparison with the voltage drop across the capacitor. Hence we can say that the total input voltage will be appearing at the capacitor, because the voltage drop at the resistor is negligible in comparison with the voltage drop across the capacitor, and the capacitor here will be charging very quickly. Hence we are saying that the current is determined entirely by using the capacitor itself. So the current formula or the current output can be given as I of t is equals to C into dVi of t by dt. This is the input voltage. The total current will be obtained at your capacitor itself, because the voltage drop at the resistor is negligible. Okay, voltage drop across the resistor is negligible. Hence the output and the output signal can be given as V0 of t is equals to RC into dVi of t divided by dt. Okay, here we can say that the proportional the high pass RC circuit acts as a differentiator provided by the RC time constant of the circuit is very small in comparison with the time required for the input signal to make an appreciable change. These are definitions we have already told to you people. Correct? So by using this, output is proportional to the derivative of your input. Your output is proportional to the d by dt of Vi of t. It means that your output is proportional to the derivative of the input. Okay, I hope you are clear with the what we call say high pass RC circuit, which acts as the differentiator. Okay, let's move on. Now see, we are saying that this high pass circuit is now a differentiator. Now if you are going to apply some different input voltages to that one, either derivative of a square wave is a waveform, or if you are going for the ramp, or if you are going for a step, there are different inputs we have already given to, we have already seen the derivation parts also for that one. If you are giving some different conditions for this one, what will be happening we will be seeing here. Okay, see, first one is I am applying the derivative of step signal to that one. So if the derivative of the step signal is an amplitude of the infinite amplitude at the occurrence of the discontinuity of the step, the derivative of an ideal pulse is positive impulse followed by the delayed negative impulse, each of the infinite amplitude and occurring at the points of discontinuity. So what does it mean? So we are saying that if when you are applying a step input step signal here, because your input is derivative or your output is a derivative of your input. We have already said that output is proportional to the derivative of your input. So here I am applying the derivative of your step input signal, which is an impulse of an infinite amplitude. If you are derivating this, you will be having an infinite amplitude at the occurrence of the discontinuity of the steps. You won't be getting a continuous step over here. So here what happens, you will not be getting the proper output, because you will be only getting the ideal positive impulses which are followed by delayed negative impulse response, and it also will be having a infinite amplitude. This is when you are applying the step signal as an input to the high pass RC circuit. Now if I am applying the square wave, here the derivative of the square wave is a waveform which uniformly zero except at the points of the discontinuity. I'll repeat it once again. The derivative of the square wave is nothing but when you are applying the input to this differentiator as a square wave, that will be a waveform which will be having the uniformly zero. Uniformly you will be getting the zero except the points at which there is a discontinuity. If there is a discontinuity, means you will be getting 1 as an output, or else you will be continuously getting a 0 as an output. So at this point, the precise differentiation would yield impulses to an infinite amplitude with a zero width and alternating polarity. So for that reason, for a square wave input, the high pass RC circuit with very small time constant will produce an output which is zero except at the points of discontinuity. As I've already said, for the square wave input, if you are applying the square wave input, okay, for your high pass RC circuit which acts as a differentiator, that will be having very small time constant and that will be producing an output but which is zero at the points of discontinuity. Wherever the point is discontinued, they will be having zero, or else you will be getting the output in other places. At these points of discontinuity, there will be peaks of the finite amplitude of V. What is amplitude? You already know, everyone knows, right? So at these points of discontinuity, there will be peaks of the finite amplitude. You will be getting higher peaks of the finite amplitudes where you will be having the discontinuity. So this is because the voltage drop across the resistor is not negligible compared with the voltage drop which is occurring at the capacitor. So an RC differentiator converts to a triangular wave into a square wave. So this is very important point, that your triangular wave is used to get your square wave. This you will be seeing in the next linear IC applications also afterwards. So or in the next classes also. So this is because when you are having this high amplitudes at the point of discontinuity, so what happens, this why we are getting this high amplitudes, because there is a voltage drop across our resistor is not negligible. Here it is not negliged. So that's the reason you are getting a finite amplitudes, peaks of the finite amplitudes. So for that reason, as to reduce that finite amplitude peaks of the amplitude, what you are doing, this RC differentiator will be used as to convert this triangular wave into a square wave output. So that's the reason you can generate a square wave by using the triangular waves. Okay, I hope you are clear. Now if you are applying the ramp input voltage, okay, we have seen step, you have got square, and if you are getting the square, you are using a differentiator as to convert the triangular wave into the square wave, because you are getting the outputs as a triangular wave, because you are getting the high peaks of the amplitudes. So as to reduce that one, we are using that is applied to the differentiator, and that differentiator converts your triangular wave into the square wave. Now I am applying the ramp input. Okay, now ramp Vi is equals to 80. The values at RC dV by dt, means you are applying you are differentiating your RC here, then you will be getting the answer as A into RC. Though this is the true except near the origin, you will be getting this output except the origin. So what we can say, only at the origin we won't be getting the output, remaining the parts, that this equation will be true. It means that the output approaches the proper derivative value only after a Laplace of time corresponding to several time constants. Okay, so we can say that here, and the error at nearly at your theta is equals to 0 degrees, that is near the origin, is due to the fact that in this region the voltage across the resistor is not negligible compared with the capacitor. The only condition for the your differentiator is it should what we can say, voltage drop across the resistor should be negligible. If it is not negligible, it means that you are having the error. And what we are saying in the ramp input, only at except the origin you will be getting the output, means the error is occurring at the origin. So that's the reason we have given here error near theta is equals to 0 is again due to the fact that the voltage drop across the resistor is not negligible in comparison with the voltage drop across your capacitor. Okay, so if you assume that the leading edge of the pulse can be approximated by ramp, okay, the leading edge, the positive edge. Then we can measure the rate of the rise of the pulse by using the differentiator. How much it is rising, that can be found by the differentiator, and the peak output is also measured on its oscilloscope. That is nothing but your CRO, and by using the equation A into RC, we can find out how much error has been occurred and what is the slope, and by using that we will be finding out actually the error, and you will be getting the answer. That is nothing but how much voltage drop has to be neglected or the removed at the resistor. Okay, now the criteria for the good differentiation in terms of steady state sinusoidal analysis is that if a sine wave is applied to the high pass RC circuit, the output will also be a sine, and that can be given as tan theta is equals to XC divided by R, and that will be is equals to 1 by omega RC. So that if a wave is shifted by the leading angle theta such that with the output being proportional to sine of A greater than T plus theta. In order to have a true differentiation, we must obtain the cos omega t. In other words, theta must be equal to 90 degrees. So that's the result. Then only we can get your R is equals to 0 or C is equals to 0. So this is the condition we are applying when we are applying the sinusoidal voltage. So for get a proper sinusoidal voltage or to have a proper sinusoidal analysis, we have to take the condition tan theta is equals to 1 by omega RC, and the angle should be of 90 degrees. Okay, and that only at that conditions you will be getting R is equals to 0, that is negligible, or C is equals to 0. So these are the different kinds of inputs that we have applied to your high pass RC circuit, which acts as an differentiator. Okay, so these are the step input, then square, then how you are converting square, how you are getting from triangular wave to the square wave. Then if you are applying the ramp input, what are the different times, it's several time constant, how you are getting at the origin, you are getting the error, and how you will be removing that error we have seen. Okay, by the leading edge or the trailing edge, where we have to apply the differentiation to get the proper output. Then at the last criterion for when you are applying the sinusoidal voltage for the proper differentiation, the study of this sinusoidal voltage or the sinusoidal input voltage, you have to apply this condition, this equation, and you have to apply the conditions what you have given here. So I hope you are clear with the part of high pass RC circuit which acts as a differentiator. Now we'll move on to the next topic of your what you can say first step, that is your attenuators. What actually the name itself, you can see what is meant by attenuator, amplifiers and attenuators. What attenuators means, simply we can say as to reduce the amplitude of a signal waveform, correct? Amplifying means you are boosting up, you are increasing the amplitude of a signal waveform. Attenuating is nothing but you have to reduce the amplitude of a signal waveform, right? So how we can use that one, what are the network or what is the combination of the networks where we can use for this attenuators, we'll see here. Okay, so let's begin with the next topic, which is called as your attenuators. So attenuators are the resistive networks. You have the combination of these all resistive networks as the attenuators. See, an attenuator which is an ideal circuit with a combination of R1 and R2. Okay, then actual circuit, this is the actual circuit which is followed up by a capacitor. Then you will have a compensated attenuator, then a compensated attenuator which is read on as a bridge rectifier or the bridge type. Okay, this is the normal ideal attenuator. Okay, and this is the actual attenuator. This part is the actual attenuator, this is the normal ideal attenuator. And how we are going to see that is here. So attenuators are basically the resistive networks which are used to reduce the amplitude of the input signal. As I've already told that these are used to reduce the amplitude of a signal waveform. Just to remember, attenuators and amplifiers. Amplifying is nothing but boosting up. You already know that. You will be increasing the amplitude of your input signal. Here in the attenuators, you will be reducing the amplitude of your input signal waveforms. So the simple resistor combination which I have already shown here, this is the ideal attenuator we'll be using. That will be multiplying the input signal by the ratio A is equals to R2 divided by R1 plus R2. independently of your frequency. Without any frequency, this is the you will be multiplying the input signal and you will be getting the output here as R1 divided by R1 plus R2. Okay, now see, if the output of the attenuator is feeding a stage of amplification, the input capacitance C2 of the amplifier will be stray capacitance, that will be shunting the resistor R2 of the attenuator, and the attenuator is also shown in the figure. Suppose in this condition, what you are saying that whatever the output we have got from this attenuator, which is feeding, means this is giving the input to some other amplifiers. You have attenuated here, and this output has to be given as the input to some amplifiers. In that conditions, we will be using your capacitor C2, that will be acting as an input capacitance of the amplifier, that will be acting as a stray capacitance shunting, which will be making your resistor R2 of the attenuator, and that is it will be stopping the current from the R2. And the attenuator that is used for that particular condition is this part. Okay, now see, and the attenuation now is not independent of frequency. Here it was independent of frequency. Okay, now it will be depending upon the frequency, and you are shunting the resistor R2. You are not using the resistor R2 here. Now by using the Thevenin's theorem, the circuit of what you have used here may be replaced by its equivalent circuit. Now if you are applying the Thevenin's theorem over here, then you will be replacing this circuit, because it has been shunt. Now I am being replacing this circuit. This is the equivalent circuit of your what you can say actual attenuator. So it is a combination of a resistor followed by a capacitor. Correct? I hope you are clear with this part, and you will be having input as AVI, because you have got A is what actually it is the attenuated output from here somewhere. Okay, you are attenuating, then that output you are applying as the input for this actual attenuator. So this will be of AVI and the output will be of V0 here. Clear ma? I hope you are clear now with this one, in which R is the equivalent to the parallel combination of R1 and R2. Here this R is the parallel combination of R1 plus R2. What is parallel combination of R1 R2? If two resistors are kept in parallel, what is the formula? R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So that overall one equivalent resistor can be replaced over here. So that's the reason we are saying by using Thevenin's theorem, we are replacing this equivalent circuit, which is already shown in the part 3. Now normally R1 and R2 must be large, so that the nominal input impedance of the attenuator is very large enough to prevent the loading down of the input signal. But now R1 and R2 are larger than the rise time, which is already known, 2.2 into R1 parallel to the R2 into C2 will be large, and a large rise is normally unacceptable, large rise time. Okay, now what we have to be, what I am saying here, I'll repeat it once again. First, up to here clearly, up to this part, up to for 3 figures you are clear. This is the normal attenuator. When this attenuator is fed up to an amplifier, how you are going to see this one, and by using Thevenin's theorem you are using a equivalent resistance of that one. Now after this, when you are having this one, what normally R1 R2 must be large, so that the nominal input impedance of your attenuator is large enough as to prevent, because you have to attenuate as to prevent the loading, as to prevent the loading down the input signal. Now but if R1 R2 are large than that of your rise time, we are saying that R1 and R2, the both resistance should be large enough, but not that much large that they are exceeding the rise time. If they are exceeding the rise time normally, then it is not acceptable, because your R1 R2 value should be large, but it should be less than that of your rise time. So the attenuator is compensated by the shunting resistor R1 and by the capacitor C1, which is already shown in the figure, this one. Now that if that is the condition, then you have to shunt this resistance. So what happens, the attenuator may be compensated. You have to do some compensation in that conditions, and that compensation can be done by adding one more capacitor at the resistor R1. So this is the attenuation is once again independent of frequency, because at this part you had it is it is depending on the frequency. Now as to make independent of frequency, you have to apply one more capacitor near your resistor R1. Now it becomes again independent of frequency. So the circuit has become which is already shown is to suggest that two resistors and two capacitors may be viewed as the four forms or the four arms of the bridge. And if R1 C1 minus R2 C2, the bridge will be balanced and no current will flow in the branch connecting to the point X and point Y, here to here. And there is no current will be flowing overly, okay, from point X to point Y. So for the purpose of computing the output, the branch XY may be omitted and the output will be again equal to the Cm, means you will be getting the output at the Cm, at the normal capacitance itself here, okay. So and that will be also independent of frequency, because we are not having any capacitor over here. Here it was dependent on frequency. Again you got two capacitors over here, so it is independent of frequency again. So as the output changes, okay, now a C1 will be ordinarily have to make some adjustable changes as to get the proper output responses. Now see, suppose a step input signal of amplitude V is applied to the circuit. As the input changes abruptly by the V volts at t is equals to 0, and the voltage across C1 and C2 will also be changing abruptly. Listen here carefully. I am applying a step input signal over here. If this capacitor is changing, the current is changing here for this, okay. As the input changes abruptly at the voltage V is equals at the voltage V at time t is equals to 0 within no time, then automatically these two capacitors will also be changing instantly or abruptly. So this will happen at your V1 is equals to 0 and the capacitor acts as the short circuit, and very large or the infinite current will be flowing through the capacitor, which will be within very small time, so that the final charges, that is equals to Q is equals to integration of 0 to 0 I of t into dt, is delivered to the each capacitor, and the initial output is determined by the each capacitor. Since the same current will be flowing through the both the capacitors, then the capacitor value or the current we can be at each capacitor can be found by using the formula C1 is equals to integration of 0 to minus 0 to plus 0 I of t into dt, and that is nothing but your finite charge which has been produced in that one. So this is how you will be finding the current total current which is produced, or total capacitor which is in your both the capacitors here, okay, when you are applying the step input as a response, which is independent of your frequency also. Because what happens, both the if this is charged, your current your input is changed, then obviously both the capacitors will be changed, and because they both are in shunt condition, C1 is shunt, so both the capacitors will be having the same current. And to find out the capacitor in these both the capacitors, you can use the formula C1 is equals to integration of minus 0 to 0 I of t into dt, because the current flowing through both the capacitors are same. So that's the reason by using this formula you can find the capacitance at both the capacitors. So initial the voltage across here for capacitor C1 can be given as Q divided by C1, and that is equals to V1. Similarly, the capacitors which are accumulated in the capacitor C2, that is given as 0 to integration of 0 to 0 I of t into dt, that is also Q. So initial voltage at the capacitor C2 is again V0 of 0, and the input signal can be given as V is equals to combination of V1 plus or the addition of V1 plus V2. What is the V1 value we have got from here? Q by C1. Same voltage will be passing through the capacitor, so V1 is equals to Q by C1 and V2 is equals to Q by C2. So the total input signal can be given as Q of C1, cross multiply and get the by using LCM C1 plus C2 divided by C1 C2. Now you apply this equate this equation. What is V0 of t divided by V is equals to Q by C2 divided by Q into C1 plus C2 divided by C1 C2, and by using all this one you will be getting the answer as V naught of 0, or the output voltage is equals to V into C1 divided by C1 plus C2, or it is also given as if we output voltage is equals to input voltage into combination of C1 by C1 plus C2. So clear? So the final output voltage can be determined by using the resistors R1 and R2, because the capacitors C1 and C2 act as an open circuits when you are applying some DC voltage under steady state conditions. So as to find out the output, then we are using the resistors R1 and R2. So at the steady state conditions, your output voltage V naught of infinity can be given as V into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Okay, or you can also write it as Vi output is equals to input into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So by using this one, looking back from the output terminals with the input short circuited, we can see that R is equals to R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. That is the parallel combination with your C is equals to C1 plus C2. Hence the decay of your rise time or the decay time of the output, when the attenuator is not perfectly compensated from the initial to the final values, which takes place exponentially, then the time constant R is equals to RC. The response of the attenuator is equal to or greater than that of your R2C2 divided by R1, which is already indicated in the figure over here. So by using this one, this is a perfect compensation, perfect attenuation you will be getting here. At V naught of is equals to 0, you will be properly getting here. At this point you will be getting, this is actually V, you are attenuated up to this value, because we only require up to this part of attenuation. So this is called as your perfect compensation, V naught of 0 plus. And this is in terms of your resistor, this is in terms of your capacitor, right? You got your proper output here. Actually this was the input, at to V is the amplitude, but we require only this part. So this particular part has been attenuated. Now what happens here in the second part, overcompensation. If you have gone for the overcompensation, then you will be getting this kind of tilt. The output will be, this is the output, but your amplitude in terms of your capacitor, you will be getting a peak. When in terms of your resistor, then you will be getting the proper output. Then the third one is under compensation. Then if you are going for the under compensation, then your V naught of 0 plus, that is the output which you have obtained by using the capacitors, you will be get less than that of your resistors. So C1 will be less than of R2C2 divided by R1. This is C1 is greater than R2C2 divided by R1. Then C1 is equals to R2C2 divided by R1. So these are the three conditions. One is perfect compensation, overcompensation, and it is undercompensation. So this is how. So that one, by using the bridge balanced condition, we can get all these proper compensations. Okay. So I hope you are clear with this part. Okay. So these are the three conditions or the responses of your compensed attenuator, and I hope you are clear with this part of your differentiator as well as the attenuators. So I'll wind up the class here itself. In case of any doubts in these two topics, please do let me know, and do maintain the notes. Okay, so thank you.